Yeah,
All right, here we
because I
go.
haven't.
All right,
I,
live.
I've
It's
been.
live. Just before you're about to say something that you didn't want to go live. All right, everyone. This is the live stream. I'll wait for a few of you to get in before we kind of get into it properly. But yeah, this is how you doing, Robert? Anyway, mate, I haven't spoken to you for a while.
I'm doing okay, good at the moment. Yeah, lots on.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of research into uh, legal versus lawful and
Yeah.
where I stand within that and how I can best place myself and how I can manage that whole, that whole thing that's happening out there to us all that I'm trying to work out how to best navigate it.
Yeah, you'd do really well to meet Pete Stone and Carly Spell and people like that, because they've got a whole syllabus on all that, and they teach that, and they've got Carly's got a platform called Dark Matters, which is all about moving from legal to lawful and maritime admiralty law to common law and exempting from the system. So yeah, that's good. I know you sent me the email, didn't you, recently? So that's kind of cool that you're looking into all that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I wanted to pick your brain still about the German new medicine for now, anyway, and then we can maybe come back onto that bit, because that's obviously how we got chatting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was looking for someone who could come on the show to talk about German new medicine, and then you kindly, said you would come on, and yeah, it's really, really interesting. Maybe we can go over some of the fundamentals again, but maybe you can explain it. Basically, the summary is all diseases are caused by the mind and a conflict within the mind, right? And this is from Dr. Hammer's work. Okay, you say it, because I'm gonna bodge it if I say it.
Yeah. All diseases are mediated via the psyche.
Right.
And to be specific, the psyche is a process that happens within the brain, and it is unchanged. It's not the mind. Okay, so it's a process within the brain, and its purpose is to mediate internal biological and behavioral changes to external environmental pressures. Changes. So the purpose of is to make internal changes, which medicine calls disease, when we perceive an external trauma. When we experience a trauma we experience it internally, but we perceive the trauma. Or even if it can even be caused by thought or LSD and things like that as well. Okay, but our senses perceive the trauma, and it then starts a biologically adaptive process in us in an attempt to practically overcome that issue that's been created through the trauma. So that's what the psyche is. Okay, so it's not the brain, it's not the conscious mind. It doesn't really have much to do with the conscious mind. The psyche is the master controller of the body. It's much, much more powerful than the conscious mind. It controls all the organs and such to maintain homeostasis, but it also has a download, if you like, of special programs which are triggered by a type of trauma, a special type of trauma, and it initiates these special programs which biologically or behaviorally adapt the organism. And you're an organism and I'm an organism, right? But then your pet dog and your pet hamster's an organism too. So the same thing's happening with all of them. So I think I covered all bases there, I reckon. It's the psyche. The psyche, it orchestrates changes in the body because the body's experienced a trauma. And the purpose of it is to adapt the body to help the person cope with that trauma.
Okay, yeah. Can we give like an example of that, just to make that clear for someone? So, for instance, like, I don't know, breast cancer or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Dead clear, that one. So there's a woman walking down the street with her, let's say, he's a 3-year-old child, right? and she meets a friend, and she's chatting away to a friend, and the child, let's say, sees one of its friends across the street. So it jerks its hand out of its mum's grasp, and it runs across the street. And the first thing the mum knows is that she hears the screech of brakes and thump, a big thump, and her child's lying emotionless on the ground. So in that moment, the woman, she suffers a biological conflict, a severe stress, and the psyche steps in and says, well, you're gonna need to nourish that child. So it starts augmentation of the glandular cells in her left breast if she's right-handed. So in her non-dominant side, if she's left-handed, then it's in her right breast, and if she's right-handed, it's her left breast, and it's always that way. And it starts to create a glandular breast cancer in order to produce more milk, because that child is stricken on the ground. It's not dead, and the child's not dead, but it's ill. Maybe gets ambulance to hospital, and the woman is in severe high stress alert, and her biological brain is trying to adapt her body to aid her child. So it creates more glandular tissue to create more milk, because the biological solution to a stricken child will be to feed it. So that's the reason why the glandular breast cancer develops, and it will continue to develop until the child, let's say, if it makes a recovery, then the glandular breast cancer stops developing and it goes into healing. And the body then removes that extra glandular tissue with biological organisms such as tubercular bacteria and fungi. It actually orchestrates the activity of these organisms within us, and it actually eats away at that glandular breast cancer until it's all gone. And that's it, job done, right? That's the whole purpose of it. So that's a really simple example, right?
You can see, so can we go into that? Okay, so it's the loss of a child that creates, or the trauma with the young, of the mother that creates it, or not?
Yeah, the mother suffered a trauma when she saw her child, the accident, right? And the child was lying on the floor, possibly unconscious, right? So she suffered a trauma about that child, and the body wanted to nourish the child, because this trauma she suffered was that the child is needing mothered, or needing food, or needing something to make it well, right? And the only biological thing the mother can do biologically is to feed it. Okay.
Why the breast though? If someone's like lying in the road just after having their legs broken, why would the mother instinctively want to produce breast milk? Why would that help a kid with broken legs?
Well, you see, the mother just perceived her child in danger, stricken. Like the child's well-being is in serious danger, and within 0.2 of a second, the psyche's already made this decision. It's not. It doesn't think, oh, what's wrong with that child? Oh, it's got a broken femur and broken couple of a bloody nose. It's just in 0.2 of a second, the woman has gone into severe shock, trauma, adrenaline, and also the psyche has already started that process to save that child with more milk.
Okay, all right. No, I get that. Yes, instinctive. It happens very quickly. So how can you get women that get breast cancer who don't have children then? What's happening there?
Well, the same program on the breast glands, okay, can be activated by a traumatic confrontation within what she regards as her nest, because the brain is really wired. One half of the brain is wired to account for life with respect to the nest, as Dr. Hammer called it. So the nest of a woman is her house, is her close family, is her children, if she's got pets that she loves, and her mother is in the nest as well. no matter how, even if the mother's old or young, it doesn't matter. She's in the nest because I suppose it's because the woman actually came from the mother. So there must be an association there, right? That's biologically linked. So the it's going to be either like it can be an argument within the nest or a trauma to some member of the nest. Now it can even be, if let's say you've got a dog that you just adore, you treat it like a baby, or the woman treats it like a baby. Okay, if that gets hit with a car as well, okay, that could trigger it. Or if it was, let's just say, the mother gets a diagnosis that she has bowel cancer, advanced. Okay, well, again, that is the psyche. The woman hears that, and if it catches her on the wrong foot and she's really not ready for that trauma, okay, boom, the psyche will step in and say she wants to nourish her mother. So it's very likely to cause glandular breast cancer on the non-dominant breast. Whereas, okay, so just so I can make this clear, whereas if the woman suffers a trauma where she perceives her partner, her husband, say, or her wife, depending on which way she goes in that one, right? A trauma with respect to the partner, as if the partner has been, say, struck with a car and he's struck and ill, then the exact same program will start on the other breast. And if you do a brain scan, you will be able to see the hammer foci on the opposite brain relay within the cerebellum in every case, without exception.
So with partners, they can still get the breast cancer, but it's
on the other breast.
It's on the other breast. Okay, so one is connected to nurturing the young, and the other one is, what would we say, is connected to just love for someone.
It's the pack. It's your close pack member. So basically, you've got to sort of wind the clock back quite a few hundred generations or thousands. Go back a couple of million years to when we lived a different life, right? When we lived as packs, and our survival, and the survival of our kids depended on the survival of our pack around us. Yeah, the pack was an integral unit that like the tribe, you might call it, and it was generally a small unit, biologically designed to be round about 10 men and associated women. I don't know how many, but probably the same. And that would be your pack back in the day, right? Back. I don't know the period. I'm not going to pretend to know that, but it was in our history. This would have been how we lived. And that I don't know the period. Oh, I'm hearing myself there.
Sorry, I'm just you're coming through on mine. Don't worry, I've muted you on mine. Don't worry, it's fine now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes. So the left, so the right breast. So in that instance where it's a pack member, let's say your partner, let's say your husband, if it's a woman, right? Well, obviously women, it's your husband, for example, or your brother, or your sister, right, or your father. It would initiate the glandular program on the right side of the body. So, and it's always that way. And you can photograph it happening in the brain, right? You can actually see the brain relay and the cerebellum, which is driving the glandular tissue augmentation.
Yeah, I remember you showed me the brain scans of it, like in the first episode that we did.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just say that this woman has breast cancer, and let's say it's if she's left-handed, it's in the right breast, and it could be connected to her young, or the tragedy of a child, or her nest, right? So what would be the process of psychosomatically undoing that kind of conflict, that trauma?
Okay, well, there is no guarantee. Basically, what's needed for a natural healing, okay, is for that woman, her psyche, to release its conflict. That's what's needed. It's the conflict of that's driving the biological adaptive process, and for that woman to resolve her psyche's conflict with for example, the stricken child. Well, one possible solution is if the child died, because biologically the brain would no longer be trying to feed it.
Yeah, we
Okay,
don't
so
want that,
that's a
do
bit,
we?
it's gruesome. Yeah, I mean, it's
Not a
just
nice
the way
thing
it
to,
is. It's
yeah.
just the way that it is, right?
Mm.
But you know, a less gruesome result would be if the child got better.
Mm.
Okay, then it stops it, right?
Yeah.
Another possibility is that, well, in that case, it's pretty hard, right? It's such a powerful thing to see a child, you know, your own child. I mean, it's so it's. I mean, I've got a child, right? I've had two children actually, and you know, there's nothing bigger, right? So, but other conflicts, because the same process in principle happens all over the body in every tissue, and it creates what's commonly known as disease, and that includes every disease, right? Every disease in a medical dictionary. Um, so so how to resolve these things, and I'm talking in principle, right? Let's say it's eczema, right? Eczema is a separation conflict, and if you're a right-hander, then on the right side of your body, it relates to your pack. And on the left side of your body, it relates to your nest. And if you have it on both sides of your body, it means your brain is processing it through both of those relevances. That's the best way of putting it, right? Or that I can think of just now. Okay.
Mm.
So how it's a separation, and let's just say it was an unwanted separation. Let's say it was your mum and dad split up, right? And you're shared between mum and dad. You know, you have the weekends with dad and Monday to Friday with mum, for example. That could be one scenario, okay, where um the eczema keeps on going, you know, month after month, year after year. So you can have practical, you can work practically, you know, you can the mum and dad could like have a meeting, come together with the child from someone say, listen, you know, we're kind of we're still friends, or you know, we're just live separately, and you know, you're belong to us both, and you're part of both our lives. You know, you could try and get a sort of a separation resolution in that instance practically by because the mum and dad are not going to get back together, so that would be the perfect resolution for the perspective of the child's psyche. But you can kind of get close to that by saying, well, we're still friends, and we still, you know, talk to each other about you, and we're both interested in you, and we enjoy having you both. And that way the child might start to feel less of a separation, because it might not feel so much like, well, if it's with dad, it can't speak about mum, and if it's with mum, it can't speak about dad. You know, there's all these levels to this kind of thing goes on, right? And if you can break all these levels down so that life is really simple and there's no conflict, then the biological conflict can go into resolution that way.
Yeah, so the different ways that what do you call it when it's resolving itself? A biological resolution, is that?
Yeah, when you resolve the conflict, and
Yeah.
the body then goes into the resolution phase of the process. Yeah, and you get, you know, different
Okay.
symptom profile happening.
And sorry, did I hear it right? So with the breast cancer, you said either the child dies and then obviously it stops producing more, like what would you say,
Yeah,
tissue,
correct.
and then yeah,
And then
or
it tries to remove,
yeah.
the old tissue, right?
Okay.
And it
Mm.
uses bacteria and
Mm.
tubercular bacteria to do that.
Okay, so let's say that that's one way, or the child gets better and then it also heals it that way as well. But let's say the
Correct.
child
Yeah.
is still in hospital for weeks, or whatever. It's still there, the breast cancer. What could be the process there for that woman, that
Well,
mother to
what
do?
happens? What happens then if there's no resolution?
Yeah.
But let's say the child makes a kind of fairly good recovery, you know, but it's still in hospital, right? It can happen that the program just goes into pause, and the cancer neither grows nor diminishes. It just
Mm.
stays there, and if you don't find it, it'll cause you no problems whatsoever. And Dr. Hammer says, I mean, Dr. Hammer, I mean,
Mm.
I've read translations of a lot of his material, and he said that we all have cancers come and go, and we don't know about it. And
Mm.
lots lots of women have
Mm.
had these cancers develop and then just go into freeze mode or go into healing, and they leave calcified pockets within the breast. Now, back in the day that didn't matter, but nowadays every woman's like coerced into having mammograms, and they look at these mammograms, and anything they see, they then say, well, oh, you've got, there's this shadow, there's this mark, we don't know, and it causes trauma to the woman, which then
Mm.
triggers off secondary cancers, because it's trauma, right? It's the same as it's the trauma. The psyche latches onto that trauma and starts something else. So it's usually lung cancer. Actually, the diagnosis of cancer of the primary cancer usually sets off lung cancer and cancer of the lymphatic system. Because lung cancer is caused, alveolar lung cancer is caused by a death fright, fear for your life, right?
Right.
And the gland, the lymphatic system, so a lymph cancer is a self-devaluation conflict. So that's caused by, this part of my body is letting me down. This part of my body, this lies in the breast, this could be killing me, right? So,
Mm.
oh my God, my body's letting me down. It's like, so that conflict affects the the lymphatic system.
Mm.
And incidentally, that only shows physically when it goes into resolution and it swells up. So when you see swollen lymph, it's as actually a biological sign that the conflict has resolved and that person is in healing with respect
Right.
to that brain relay, which is driving the lymph cancer. Okay,
Yeah.
so lymph cancer in itself isn't a cancer by the definition of cancer. It's just a replenishment of the cells which were eroded
Uh,
away during the period when it was active.
See, that's just like a complete, um, you know,
It's just the truth. It's just
contrary.
the
Well,
way it is. I'm
yeah, I
sorry
know, but
about it. It's just the way it is.
it's completely contrarian to what the mainstream say. Is like they would say if you have a tumor or something swollen, it's like you need to have it removed straight away
Yeah,
or
no,
you're in trouble. But you're saying that it's in a healing stage and it's the body's cleanup system already in operation, right?
I'm just saying that's what lymph cancer is. Lymph
Lymph
cancer
cancer, right?
specifically. There's many other cancers are the same, exactly. So, but
Okay, that's
in
okay.
this for this conversation, just so I'm really specific, okay, and
Yeah,
nobody gets me into trouble, and everything I say is just my opinion, so everyone knows that, right? And you're going to
yeah,
put the warning on the
yeah,
show, okay?
yeah.
Um, okay, but lymph cancer only the lymph nodes swell up when the biological conflict becomes resolved, and it swells up quickly, swells up possibly overnight.
Mm.
So if on Monday you get it resolved, on Tuesday the lymph nodes are swelling up. You can feel them
So you would
that
say
quick.
just leave it at that point then, and then it's going to resolve itself or
I
not?
would say that. Oh no, I'll just quote Dr. Hammer. There is nothing more to pat the patient on the back and say, "Well done."
Mm. Right. Wow. I mean,
That's
that's a hard
that's
sell, though, isn't
that's
it?
that's
That's a hard sell
specifically
to
for
tell
lymph
people
cancer.
that. See, that's just most people just wouldn't take that, would they? If you said, "Oh, you just leave it. You've got a swollen lymph node. Just leave it. You know, you'll be fine." People just wouldn't do it, would they?
Well, they would if they studied the statistics of success and failure of the medical
Mm.
system, right? If they
Right.
knew if they knew what they were getting into, if people weren't, you know, I'm not going to say deliberately kept ignorant, but you know, if people knew, right,
Mm.
um, how effective things like chemotherapy and are, right? If people actually knew, they wouldn't go near it. But we're never told that either. Okay, it's
Mm.
just the way it is. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. It's like what we said about common law. There's a whole pile of stuff we don't. we're never told it because it doesn't serve the purpose of the big machine. And the same is true for medicine and our health, because it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Lymph tissue, when the conflict is active, as clearly shown on the CT scan of the brain, the tissue diminishes. It erodes the tissue inside the lymph nodes specifically. And when the conflict is resolved, the tissue swells up and becomes 10 times bigger. All of the whole cluster of them swell up, and it gets diagnosed as that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, it's just such a different way of looking at things, isn't it? I mean,
it is wild. But do you know something? Do you know something, right? It's actually, when you take the time to learn this stuff, and it's freely available on www.learninggnm.com. It's all there, absolutely free, all explained super easy, right? And when you spend the very worthwhile time of learning it to the point where you know it, right? You then sit there and look back at the way things are in the normal world, and you think, man, that is crazy. I mean, you think it's as crazy as what you think I'm saying is crazy. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's. I
Yeah.
mean, the world is upside down and inside out, so it doesn't really surprise me. The only thing, I think we talked about this before, but I'm going to mention it to you again, is that a lot of people would say that we're living in a toxic world, right? They're spraying us with God knows what, right?
Oh, tell
Poison.
me about it.
Yeah, so
Tell
we're
me.
actually in a soup of poison. They're spraying us what we're drinking, and they're putting into the tap water,
Yeah.
the crap that they put in the food in the supermarkets.
Completely.
I mean, God knows what Bill Gates is doing, like, with the graphene stuff. I mean, so we are being poisoned like on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
But you would still
Completely.
say you could be totally poisoned by all that stuff, but it's the mind that is still, sorry, it's the psyche that is the catalyst. It's the psyche that.
No, I'm saying, listen, if you took 5 grams of cyanide, it's going to kill you in about 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So
No, but I'm saying,
that's nothing.
yeah,
That's not. So no, but
that's
what I'm saying is,
poisoning. Yeah.
that's nothing to do with the psyche and the brain and these biological conflicts. That's just poisoning,
Yeah.
right?
No, I get that. But what I'm saying, though, Robert, is
I know what you're saying.
I'm talking about the poisoning in just a cup of tap water.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I just have to get the point clear, right?
Yeah.
There's poison that you can be poisoned to death. You can be,
Yeah.
you can be shot to death, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
fall out. You can hit a tree on your motorbike 110 mile an hour to death,
Mm,
right? These can all kill you, right? But where it comes to disease, every disease is controlled by the psyche, because we know this because the brain relay is photographed doing it. Every disease. I'm talking a cold sore, or I'm talking
yeah.
a sty on your eye. You can actually see a sty on your eye in a CT scan of a brain. You can see arthritis in a CT scan of the brain. You can see gonorrhea in a CT scan of the brain, right? You can see the common cold or flu. You can see COVID in a CT scan of the brain, okay?
Yeah.
Because everything is controlled, every tissue is controlled by the brain. Now, there is a roundabout way in which toxins can promote the brain to cause a disease, which is not a disease, it's a biological process, and which is a misnomer calling it a disease. Anyway, round, okay? There is a roundabout way in which the toxicity can, because the more stressed we are in general, the more likely the psyche is to break through and cause, or to be, the more likely the psyche is to be triggered by a life event. And this accounts for nutritional or chemical toxins and emotional toxins, especially, in fact, much more so emotional toxins, much more so, right?
Mm.
So a man, let's say, who's going through a divorce case that's going to cost him dear, the tax man's after him, and his wife's no, and somebody else, I don't know, some other big stress, right? That guy's stressed. Now his psyche is much more likely to break through the conscious control we have and start disease. The more you're stretched, right, the more vulnerable, or not the vulnerable, but the more your psyche will step forward to
Mm.
try and help you, because that's what
Mm.
it's trying to do. All diseases or so-called diseases are an actual sign that the psyche is trying to help you, or is trying to, or has tried to help you. So the more you need help, do you know what I mean, the more it'll do it. And if you're eating real rubbish food and it's to the point that it's stressing your psyche, then it's conceivable that the psyche will be more apt to
Mm.
start a process which will the ignorant person would call a disease, but it's not. It's just a biological process which is trying to help you cope with something.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, that might tie into Michelle's question here a little bit, because she's had a mammogram. Um, yeah, stop giving your power away. You know, the mammograms.
Yeah. So mammograms, you know, and I'll get. We'll talk a little bit more about this, right? Just I'll give you some background, okay? Um, there are very few cancers that can kill you. And no wonder, because nature or God or evolution, whichever way, or God who created evolution, whichever, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
We're how you explain what we are, how we are what we are, right? But there, it's always trying to help the person stay alive. It makes no sense to think that the body's trying to help you die. It's just it's idiotic to think that, right?
Mm.
So the body is always trying to help you stay alive, and it's one of the main mechanisms which actually keep the species alive over the last 20 million years, right? It is the process, and it's happening in all animals as we speak all of the time, including us. Okay,
Mm.
so it would be silly to think that it would a survival process program would kill us, right? I mean, it could get to the point where a bowel cancer obstructs the bowel, right? That's one case where it could,
Mm.
right? Or it could get to the point where lung cancers fill up the lungs so much that you can't breathe very well. But that would take a very long time. It'd have to be a pretty hefty shock to do that, right? It would be a very unusual case to do that. So, as Dr. Hammer says, the body's not trying to kill us; it's trying to protect us from life, from traumas.
Mm.
So, with respect to mammograms, if according to German new medicine, right? I'm being careful. If you just left the cancer growing and it grew to the size that you needed a wheelbarrow, it wouldn't kill you. It could not kill you. That breast could get to the size of a wheelbarrow. You need it, right? It would not kill that woman. It'd be inconvenient, fair enough, okay,
Mm.
but it wouldn't kill her, right? So why the big panic? Why all the mammograms? Why all this test and that test, which do nothing except terrify people,
Mm.
and the information you get back is just an opinion based on an hypothesis which has not been proven and never can be proven. The whole medical framework of knowledge is basically a group of basic hypotheses with more hypotheses put on top. And the very fact it's a hypothesis means it means that it is not proven. It's
Mm.
Do you know what? It's a hypothesis that germs cause disease. It's still a hypothesis. After how long? It's still a
Mm,
hypothesis. Now,
yeah.
if you cannot prove that after however many years, right? Then
Mm,
you've got to start asking yourself, that hypothesis might not be correct, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Right?
We
It's
should,
just bloody
talk
common
about that.
sense, man. Do you know what I mean? It's just
No,
the
I
way it
know.
is, you
Yeah.
know?
And then what? So when they have the mammograms, I'm guessing that is the real poison, right? That's the real like killer.
Well, well, look, you have the mammogram, right? You're putting yourself like subservient or below somebody else's knowledge. You sort of go into them as if they know more than you, and they
Mm,
know more than
mm,
well, they know more than you, right? And you don't trust your own nature, you don't trust your own
mm.
body, so you're already like walking on eggshells, right? And then all of a sudden you then, oh my god, I wonder what the results are going to be. Then you get the letter saying, look, we want to see you, your doctor wants to see you, for example. I mean, I've never had a mammogram, so I don't know the process, but it'll be something like that. Okay, oh, your doctor wants to after he's got the results of your mammogram, so you're already nervous when you go in. So that's what I was talking of, these toxic stresses. When you go into the doctors, you're already full of a toxic stress,
Yeah.
nervousness, worry. You see, you're
Mm,
like a bomb ready to go
mm,
off. And then the doctor says, well, we found such and such. Look, there it is there. You're absolutely crapping yourself. And then the doctor says, we need to do a biopsy because that could be malignant. Ooh, you're just anybody who doesn't know better you can only expect them to be very, very upset, stressed about that.
and then it's the stress that does it.
And then they have the trauma. Boom, he gets back.
It's the
Yes, that
trauma.
is malignant. And literally in point, I don't know, point one, point two of a second, as quick as the brain can do it, as quick as the
Mm,
brain can actually function, right? Bang, the psyche jumps in, boom, and starts a biological process to help that terrified woman live.
mm,
Yeah. And I fully understand that people might think sounds crazy or it's so back to front that it can't be true. But I'm afraid Dr. Hammer when he died, there was 50,000 cases in his portfolio, complete with brain scans and full histories. 50,000, okay?
mm,
And his 5 biological laws were 100% correct in every single symptom of
mhm,
every single case out of 50,000.
mm,
Okay? Now, every single symptom of every single case. So the person may have had breast cancer and lymph cancer and lung cancer, right? That's 3. Well, he able to look in the brain scan and say, yeah, there they are, bang, 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 in the brain. And likewise for all the other biological laws, he has uncovered for mankind the biggest
mm,
present that mankind has ever been given for free. Okay, and he's uncovered 5 biological laws which describe or show us what's happening in the body and why at any given point of the process, which we call disease. Okay.
mm,
And yes, I'll tell you, right, it is very difficult getting this over to people. People come to me
mm.
with all kinds of conditions, okay, and it's like quite a complex conversation to get people to start realizing what's happening in their body so that they can take charge of the process and they can manage their recovery because no one
All
else
right,
will do it for you.
yeah. Let me try and play devil's advocate here, so we can go deeper into this. So what's happening there? Someone has a cancer, and then they might go on a juice fast, like a Gerson protocol, or like just pure organic fruit juices, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Let's just say that's just
Okay.
one protocol. Let's say they do
Okay.
that, and let's say that they heal from their cancer from that, but they've still got the same they've still got the same trauma,
Hmm.
going around in their psyche about whatever it is the conflict that they've got, right?
Yeah.
How is it then
No,
they're able to still heal their cancer even if they've
but they're
still got
not.
that?
They're not.
Huh?
No one's
Not?
able to heal. Nobody's able to heal the cancer. If it is a cancer, let's put it this way: most cancers are actually healing symptoms. Okay, so a juice fast will not stop the body healing. Okay, right? Let's say, for example, I've been talking about glandular breast cancer. Glandular breast cancer accounts for approximately 10% of breast cancers. Intraductal breast cancers count for approximately 90% of breast cancers. Okay, now intraductal breast cancers are the exact opposite to glandulars, in as much as when a intraductal cancer presents itself as a swollen breast, left or right, it is only swells, it only gets the cancer, as they say, when the conflict is resolved. Just like the lymph node I talked about, exactly the same. Okay, so anybody who gets intraductal breast cancer, and which will be 90% of all women who get breast cancer, they can go on a juice fast and cure that, no problem at all, because there's nothing to cure. It's cured. It's swollen, like you bang your head on a doorpost and it swells. That again is not a cancer. That's a swell. That's a healing symptom. And likewise, a swollen breast, which within the breast lymph tissue, the lymph tissue. Sorry, this ductal tissue is the word I should have said. A swollen breast within the ductal tissue, and the ductal tissue, you know, the whole breast is either glands or ducts or fat, right, and skin on top. So the ducts make a lot of it, right? So if all the ducts start swelling up, the breast swells up. Poof, right? One big breast overnight. It's the same as the lymph gland. It's the lymph, same as the lymph so-called cancer. It's just a sign that all of that tissue has gone into full resolution. There's been a resolution of that conflict, and the woman will know it. I mean, the woman will definitely know. It just takes a conversation. When did your breast swell? Oh, well, it's swollen then. Oh, what happened the day before? Oh, well, I made up with my sister. Oh, right. Or I made up with my daughter. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and bang, that's it, done. Okay, so so the juice diet can, if you say, oh, I'm not going to the doctor, I'm going to take a juice diet. So if 9 out of 10 women with breast cancer said, I'm not going to the doctor, I'm going to do a juice diet, they would be successful, and the juice diet would heal all of them, right? But it wouldn't be the juice diet that's healing them, right? But the juice diet probably wouldn't. I'll tell you something about the juice diet, right? If you were healing from glandular breast cancer, the juice diet would probably kill you.
Really?
Yeah, because you would die of cachexia, because you would not be getting anything like enough protein to feed the tubercular bacteria. Yeah, the condition is cachexia, which it causes. So the juice diet, or the vegetable diet, or drinking holy water, or whatever, it only works on cancers, for example. If you're talking about cancer, but it could be, you could say the same thing about he's got a common cold, he went on the juice diet, he got better. It's the juice diet that cured him. Yeah, same logic. Yeah, just exactly the same. Cured his common cold, cured his flu. Oh, he caught the flu, went on the juice diet, cured him. Did it? No, because the flu is a healing symptom. The common cold is a healing symptom. Intraductal breast cancer is a healing symptom. The juice diet will never cure bowel cancer. That's a conflict active symptom. It'll never cure lung cancer. Do you know what I mean?
Well, so you're saying that they would all resolve themselves naturally if you just didn't do anything?
No, I'm saying if you've got lung cancer and you go on a juice diet, the lung cancer will just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Fill the whole lung. It'll just not do anything to it. It'll just not. It's an insignificant factor in the process in the biological process. It's insignificant. It's just that. As I'm just repeating myself, just most cancers. So I mean, we're talking about cancer, but it's not. Cancer is just one thing. But if we are talking cancers, then most cancers are, or I think, I'd say most cancers, like 9 out of 10 breast cancers, are actual healing symptoms, right? So a juice diet is just an insignificant factor in the playing out of that biological survival program, right? The problem with some of these sort of fad protocols is that if they restrict your protein intake, you see, tubercular bacteria actually fuel their activity by devouring protein. And if you don't eat enough protein when these bacteria, under the control of the psyche, if these bacteria are trying to get rid of your glandular breast cancer or your alveolar lung cancer or your bowel cancer, right? If you don't give the tubercular bacteria enough protein, easy access protein, fish, meat, right? If you don't give it enough, they'll take the protein from your organs and you'll just shrink and waste away. Because they will do, come hell or high water, the psyche is now full energy into to getting rid of that adenocarcinoma, which is in resolution. And like, if you go back to the First World War, the number of people that died of so-called TB, the TB epidemic after the First World War, must be a virus or must be epidemic. No, it was just an epidemic of people healing when there was food rationing on. Okay, because you can get lung cancer if you have a death fright, or if you've got a son who's in the army and you're frightened for his life, you can also, and you're very likely to develop lung cancer because of the death threat you've got for your son. Yeah.
Why the lungs though? Why would it affect the lungs for a death threat?
Because in nature, okay, the quickest way of dying is to suffocate, to choke them to death, to drown them, to hold the head underwater. Okay, so the body's last ditch attempt at keeping oxygen flowing into the blood is to augment the number of cells which line the alveolar sacs, which is the point of diffusion between the air and the blood. So it's the cells within the alveolar sacs which start to augment with this standby emergency program, and the cells which develop are like prehistoric cells, and they develop very quickly depending on the intensity of the trauma, I must say. Nevertheless, they are different. They are from the same cell line. They're adeno cells, but they're more archaic in nature. And that's how we think. That's how the tubercular bacteria know exactly which cells to remove, because they don't remove the normal alveolar cells. They just remove these sort of emergency cells which have been growing during the period when the person was under the death threat.
Because what about, okay, so let's just say you have someone that smokes 50 cigarettes a day or whatever, right? I mean, there is a high correlation between those people and getting lung cancer, right? Or not?
I don't know.
You don't think so?
Well, if they read the packet, yeah, they're likely to, because it's a scary packet, right? Have you ever seen a cigarette packet?
Yeah, but they only put those on in like the mid 2000s. Let's just say pre 2005 or something, before they started sticking them on, right?
Yeah.
Like people that smoked 50 cigarettes a day would be dying of lung cancer more than people that didn't smoke, right? Really?
No, that's absolutely. I'd argue that point blank. Just like it's exactly the same, right? As when they started to try and prove that smoking caused lung cancer. Okay, they got hamsters. I think hamsters live in. Is it hamsters that live in holes in the ground? I think it is, right? And they had thousands, tens of thousands of hamsters. I think it was hamsters. It might have been some other little flipping mammal thing, right? Anyway, they had like factories full of these things with face masks on, pumping the most toxic smoke into them all, right? And
Yeah.
they were obviously they killed them all after 1 week, 2 weeks, a year, however long they inflicted this torture on these animals for, right? And they did not find not one single case of lung cancer. Not one case, none, zero. Of all of the hamsters that they smoked with
Yeah.
embassy double strength or whatever,
Yeah,
none.
but that's because they just suffocated them before the cancer
No, they
developed,
didn't
right?
suffocate them. No, they didn't suffocate them. They
Mm,
had masks on and they had smoke. They had to
mm,
inhale cigarette smoke for
mm,
say 24 hours a day for
mm,
8 months, right? And then they killed them and they looked at their lung, right? That's what they did. And
mm,
none of them, not a single, like zero of them, got lung cancer. So then they started doing it with mice and rats.
mm.
Now, there's a saying: if there's a fire, the first out of the door are the mice and rats, right? If there's a fire,
Yeah.
mice and rats have got a fear of smoke, right? Because they live above ground in houses,
Mm-hmm.
right? So smoke, place on fire is a danger. So they're off. They flee. They flee first. They're the best smoke detector that was invented before they invented smoke detectors, right? Back in the Middle
Mm,
Ages, if
mm,
the rats and mice were fleeing, there was a fire in that house. So they then started putting rats and mice in the smoke, and yes, they were getting lung cancer.
mm.
Now, how do you explain that?
Because of the fear. So you're saying that the introduction of the
Because
fear
hamsters
element.
live on, there's no fear of
Yeah.
smoke. They
Mm,
did not have to evolve a biological adaptive process to deal with smoke because the ground never burns. Ground doesn't burn, right?
mm.
Houses do burn. So that's why um, that's why they were able to sort of say, oh yes, smoking causes lung cancer, but it doesn't cause lung cancer. It doesn't. I mean, listen, you know, my mother's, I
Mm,
think she's about 91 or 2, right? And she smoked as long as I can remember. She hasn't got cancer.
mm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you can't take one case, but no, I get what you're saying. But also it needs to be clear. So let's say that these hamsters, they got lung cancer, right?
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just their psyche is actually trying to heal their body,
No,
right?
no, the hamsters never got lung cancer because they have got no fear of smoke.
The mice, the mice and rats. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. The mice. Oh, you've gone. One sec, Robert. You're just on my screen. You've just disappeared. Hang on.
You're here.
We've
I'm
both
seeing you
disappeared.
now.
We popped back in. Okay, sorry. I mean the mice and rats. Sorry. The
Yeah.
mice and rats, they developed the lung cancer, but you would say at that point, that's nothing for them to fear. It's just their own psyche trying to heal themselves, right?
Yeah. And and what would happen is if they let that mouse or rat free, let it run
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
the um, torture studio, right, and go home to its little hole in the wall, right, it would run a temperature for a couple of weeks. It would sweat profusely at night, and provided
Mm,
it was getting plenty of food, it would survive quite well. Its cancer would
mm,
disappear. And if you then did a lung X-ray
mm,
of the mouse or rat, you would find cavities in the lung where the cancer
mm.
was, and then it had been removed by the tubercular bacteria. And that's what you'd find.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is wild because it's
I'll tell you something
completely.
else you'd
Yeah.
find. Hold on. I'll tell you something else you'd
Yeah.
find. If you do a CT scan of that mouse's brain,
Yeah.
okay, you will find, especially if you do it quick enough after the resolution. So within
Mm,
the resolution, but probably within 3 weeks would be
mm,
better of the resolution. So they let the mouse out of the smoke chamber and it went home holding the wall, got,
mm,
did it sweating, felt a bit ill for a couple of weeks, and then it was okay again. If you did a brain CT scan of that, you would see specifically in the brainstem, in the posterior portion of the pons of the rat's brain, you would see a dark patch, a dark little lesion, they call them, dark lesion, which would be an indicator that the biological trauma has resolved and it's going through, or it's recently gone through the healing phase of the biological program. So you wouldn't actually need to see them. If you just did the CT scan of the mouse's head and you showed that CT scan of the mouse's head to Dr. Hammer, he'd say, "Oh, that poor little thing's had lung cancer, but it's doing quite fine now. Leave it alone. It'll be fine."
Yeah, this is out there because you just don't expect to hear this sort of stuff. Yeah, and it's
I
gonna like
know.
it's a
It's
complete
amazing.
paradigm shift.
It's so out
I
there.
know. All right,
It's like the elephant.
yeah.
It's like the elephant that's sitting right in the middle of the sitting room of
Yeah,
everybody's house in the world
I
because it's
know, I
there.
know. All right, let me ask you this one. COVID, all right? You know, I didn't get it, but
Nobody got it.
no, what do you think was actually going on there? I actually think that, you know, people said they couldn't breathe, they lost their taste and smell, and they were
Yeah.
wearing those blue masks, which probably had all chemicals on. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? But I never wore any of those, and I'd never had a problem. But it's difficult to know. But what do you think? Do you think people were getting ill, or do you think it was just the flu and they just kind of rebranded
Well,
it?
look, I've said the most first statement is a biological law is something that is always provable in the next case. In the next
Mm,
case, however many
mm,
next it comes, it's always provable. Now, there are no germs of any form which cause illness within us. Illness is mediated by the brain
mm,
relays being activated by traumas. Now, COVID, I'm not exactly sure COVID, it was the lungs, but it was all very
mm.
vague. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. You need to tell me very
Mm,
specifically. See, with GNM, you can be so precise and so specific that you can really split the hairs, okay? You need to tell me exactly what tissue in which part of the body is affected. And then you can look at GNM and you can tell exactly what conflict is working and where in the brain it's come from and why it's doing it and what to do about it. Okay. So COVID's a sort of general thing, right? It's
mm.
oh, I've got long COVID. Some people say they've got long COVID. I've never seen a short COVID or a long COVID. Have you got a
Yeah.
wide COVID? You know, what
Yeah, no,
shape's your COVID? Oh, I've got a
yeah.
really high COVID, right? Oh, I've got a really high, long, wide COVID. Wow,
Yeah,
well done, you. Okay,
yeah.
so if you got, right? But if you just do the brain scan, it'll tell you what exactly is going on in the body. That's
Mm.
the deal, right? It,
Cool. Yeah, but what do you
it's like,
think it was though? What do you think was making people ill during that
well,
time?
right, a couple of factors. One factor is you've got to separate people that were ill.
Yeah.
That well, no, how can I put this differently? If you look at the percentile incidence of all conditions which can be grouped together as involving the lungs and the respiratory system, right? So
Mhm,
you've got
mhm.
asthma, you've got
Yeah.
chest colds and the rest, right? Bronchitis, right? You've got these things, okay? Now, if you look at the top, if you group all of the maladies that can happen to the lungs, right? All of the maladies that happen
Mhm,
within the lungs and the breathing system, and you looked at the figure month on month, month on month on month on month, right? It didn't change at all. Not in a percentile of a percentage did it change.
mm.
Okay, it didn't
Yeah.
change, right? So,
Mhm,
but what happened was all cases of asthma, pneumonia, bronchitis, flu, cold, cough was automatically diagnosed as COVID.
mm.
Okay, so that's one. Now, if I have to explain the significance of that to somebody, it's not worth doing, right? So it's pretty obvious, right? The next thing is that if you create a fear in the territory or a fear, it's called a stink conflict. A stink conflict would be a good one,
Mm,
or fear in the territory. or scare fright, which is slightly different. These conflicts set in motion via the brain relay biological adaptive processes which affect the tissues in the lungs and the breathing system. Okay? So you can easily, if you get enough people actually believing anything that comes out of television, right? You can create an epidemic.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what they did.
Yeah. I mean, I said pretty early on there wasn't any, P
There
or
isn't
V.
any.
No.
There isn't any
And
V.
that people just think that. What do you mean? Of course there is. Everyone's getting. Again, it's people just aren't ready to hear this. Yeah.
Well, I've told you two ways it happened, right? One way they created the panic.
Yeah.
Okay. And the second, but the biggest way altogether was that they just took all incidents of everything else and just turned it into
Yeah.
COVID. Okay.
What about the idea that they could have actually been like upping the poison, the spraying or in the water or things like that?
No, because poisoning,
Mm,
poisoning, okay, wouldn't do that. But poisoning poisons the whole organism.
mm,
It doesn't just create lung inflammation or lung congestion,
mm,
right? So to be honest with you, we can argue little points here, and you could try and sort of checkmate me into saying, well, I can't answer that question. Sorry, right?
yeah.
But nevertheless, okay, the end result is that the laws which govern our health and control of our health and our behavior,
Mm,
okay, are easily proven in every case, every single case, in everybody, every time. But you need a CT scanner to do that, and somebody who can interpret those scans properly.
mm,
Okay, so it's not so it's doable, but not everyone's got a CT scanner in their living room. Okay, but if you're careful and you look at your life, let's say the day after your breast swells up, and you
mm,
say, what happened yesterday? Oh, yeah. It, and then you go to the GNM website and you go, oh, yeah, resolution of the, and I forget the conflict right now, net resolution of that conflict affecting the intraductal tissue, getting someone off, torn from the breast, is trying to tear someone from the breast. Let's not
mm,
go into the details of that, okay? Anyway, you can go to the website and you can say, oh, that's what happened. Oh, yeah, that's right. I just did. I had this such and such situation within my life with that person, and it came to a resolution yesterday. It did.
mm,
It did. Right. I'll tell you. I
mm,
knew somebody, okay, who died through cancer. Well, didn't have the cancer, but they died because of something involved with that cancer that wasn't the cancer, right?
mm,
Anyway, her breast swelled up like a balloon the day after she got her will settled because there was a big disagreement between the kids, the adult kids, right? They were in their 30s and 40s, okay? And one of the kids was needing help, support, was
mm,
affected, right? And the other one was ambitious. And the woman didn't know to divide her estate, okay? Because, well, one of them kind of needs looking after, but the other one gets really angry, if she doesn't get at least her fair share, if not a lot more. Okay. Now,
mm,
the day after she managed to get the will written, and she said, this is the best thing to do. And she went
mm,
to her solicitor and she did the old maritime way and got the flipping the will contract.
Yeah.
done. Swole up the next day. And she was right-handed, and it was her left breast. It was her left breast because she regarded one of her kids as still like a baby.
Yeah.
Because he was, he wasn't, they had issues, right? Now that's how quick it happened. Now she was able to pinpoint it right away, just like that. Unfortunately, other people had too much of an influence in what she did then, and she's no longer with us, right? But that's how quick it came up. Her breast swelled up in overnight, and she was able to pinpoint exactly what. And she didn't die of breast cancer; it was something else altogether. Okay, but so
yeah.
German new medicine is a bit of a hobby. Once you get into it, you start. It's like spotting chemtrails. You're always looking for. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's them over again, right?
Yeah.
It becomes a bit of an awareness. Yeah. If you speak to your mate about it, they just look at you as if you're off your head. Oh, what are you talking about? That's an airplane. They make smoke, don't they? But once you know, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying about. You mentioned, you gave the example. You gave the extreme example of the cyanide, right? You said if you had like 10 kilograms of cyanide, obviously it's poisoning, right? But just
Yeah,
scale
totally.
that back a little bit. What if there was like microscopic cyanide that we were breathing in every day?
It
That's
would
the
make
poison, though,
you.
isn't it?
No, it would make you. It would cause a general illness. It would cause a general
Yeah.
illness in you, but it wouldn't cause a disease, right? It wouldn't cause the cold or bowel cancer or
Yeah.
hemorrhoids or athlete's foot, right? All of these things, or tinnitus, or hearing voices that are not there. All of these things are caused by the psyche in response to trauma, and the brain responds that way and can be photographed, and has been photographed many thousands, tens and tens and tens of thousands of times, and it's always that way. But you're right, small droplets of cyanide, or who knows
Yeah.
what they're putting in this
No, because
chemtrails, we don't know.
I'm trying to get to the bottom of like the fundamentals here. And you said, yeah, obviously there's things, if you had like loads of cyanide, it would kill you, and that's poison, and that's separate. But then
Yeah,
there has to be a point. There's a sliding scale of toxicity, right?
yeah.
And where do we know if we're in the area of high toxicity and that's what's causing it, or low toxicity and it's still the psyche? I mean, it's a sliding scale, isn't it, of toxicity?
No, it's dead. It's you're missing the whole thing here. If you've got a symptom, like give me an example. Just give me an example of a symptom you're talking about.
A symptom or an actual poison?
No, a symptom. You're saying that
Oh,
if poison's got to kill us, tell us how it's going to kill us.
I don't know. I haven't been poisoned to death. I don't know what the symptoms
No,
are.
you don't, and you never will know. Are you going to say is that level of toxin going to cause lung cancer? You've tried me on that one with lung cancer, right? Is the cigarette, as is the toxin? Okay, the cigarette smoke's the toxin that they inflicted on the guinea pigs, and the guinea pigs were fine with it. They didn't bother with it. Didn't kill them. Didn't bother them. Didn't matter how much toxin they give it. The poor guinea pigs, they might have changed color. They might have gone brown, right? But it didn't kill them. It didn't cause lung cancer. Okay. Now, if you increase the smoke until there was no oxygen, that guinea pig would die. So you could say, well, it poisoned. It was the poison, wasn't it? Well, yeah, but it's different. It's not a disease. That guinea pig did not die of a disease. It suffocated to death, right? And the
Yeah.
same with cyanide. You can be poisoned to death slowly or poisoned to death quickly, but it's different than a disease, which is, I mean, chemotherapy is exactly the same. Chemotherapy is mustard gas.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's mustard gas. Now, mustard gas killed Hundreds of thousands of people in the First World War, very effective. The Germans invented it. It was great stuff for their job, right? For their purpose, it was very successful. And it was a chemical sitting there with a patent on it, looking for another use. Chemotherapy came along. Excellent. Let's use that. Call it something else. Now, not everybody who goes on chemo dies, right? And also put into this equation that at least half of cancers diagnosed are actually healing symptoms. They're healing cancers. So you can think, right, we could just say, well, if they didn't eat enough chemo to kill them, and they luckily had this type of cancer, which is one of the half that is a healing symptom, then they're going to survive. So you can say, good on you, the chemo cured them, or you can say the juice diet cured them.
Yeah.
Same as, right? But if you with a bit more knowledge, the higher up the knowledge tree you go, the more you can look down, the more you can see, and you can see the bigger picture.
So
And you start
what about the cancers that aren't healing cancers? What should you do there?
Well, you learn German new medicine very quickly, and you resolve the conflict.
Yeah.
You resolve it practically. Dr. Hammer said the only way you can guarantee to stop an adeno or an adenoid cancer growing is to resolve the conflict practically. End of. Then the cancer stops overnight. Instantly, it stops. Instantly. And then the body removes it through with its biological friends, our friends, the bacteria and the fungi. They're our friends. They live in us symbiotically is the word. And they have done so for a very long time. And they do not cause any disease whatsoever. Right? Unless you go on holiday to Morocco and you have a hamburger, right? And you're not used to the bacteria that live in Morocco because you've come from Inverness, right? So for the first 3 or 4 days, you're going to have diarrhea until your body learns to use those bacteria. Then you can live in Morocco for the rest of your life and you'll never get gut rot again. Okay. But that's because your body's learning to adapt to those new microbes. But apart from that, microbes are our friend, right?
Well, hang on a minute. All right. So let's say, when we're kids, we go to the swimming pool, we get a verruca. Are you saying that that's some kind of psychosomatic conflict, or are you not?
It's a psyche. It's not psycho. It's nothing to do with the mind. Although the mind can be, if the mind is frightened of stepping on something dirty like a verruca, that causes it. Because that's what causes it. It's a severe separation conflict.
So it's not, you're not actually stepping on anything. You're fearful of stepping on something, and then
any wart, whether it's on your genitals, on your feet, on your hands, or anywhere else, it's the same. It's a type of separation conflict. The body.
Yeah, because let me told you on that, because it's funny, because in 2016 I got like a wart appear here. It was called impetigo. I don't know if you know that, but actually it's something that I think children get a lot. But I just got it here. But it's funny you say about the separation thing, because would you say that that's connected to like a separation trauma?
I need to know what tissue exactly was involved. If it was the epidermis or the dermis. If it was the epidermis, it most definitely is a separation issue. If it was the dermis, or it's also called the corm skin, it would have been an attack of some type.
No, it was the epidermis, and it was just here, and it grew in 2015 or 16. And this is so strange, because there was a girl that I loved, and she left to go to Australia, and I went through an enormous trauma from that, a separation trauma. And then I just noticed there was this wart grew here, like impetigo here. I had to get it removed.
Well, then that could be the case. It's impossible to say, but that sounds very like it. And the reason that the body might, or the psyche might have put it there, was either associatively with the right, left, mother, father, partner side, or it can be where if it actually associated the connection that was lost by touching, like cozying jaw to jaw sort of thing, right?
Right.
Okay, so if it was a girlfriend, for example, that you would sit you know, and
Yeah.
you'd have that sort of contact, okay, then it could do. Otherwise, the psyche uses this nest or pack um, equation to work out where to put the conflict. But anyway, it's just nature. It's just biology. It's just the psyche doing its best from its prehistoric, archaic perspective. It's trying to deal with a 21st century life, and it's making a mess of it, right? Because it's not designed. It was designed by nature in a biological period of our evolution where we lived biologically, where we lived our biological instincts were the only things that made that we behaved under. Do you with me? You know, we behaved under, just like dogs do. Dogs, you know, they sniff each other's bums and they both pee in the same bit of grass because that's the way nature is. And at a time there was a time when we was the same as that, right? Before all this sort of complex structures of society build up, and we sort of think, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you should be ashamed of yourself, and all these things, right? Dogs are never ashamed of themselves. They just live properly. Okay, it's because we're trapped in this sort of modern straitjacket, and our bodies need to work biologically with life, and they don't. And then we're also trapped in a psychological straitjacket of a fear of disease. I mean, we're totally trapped. You need to be Houdini to get free out of this. I'll tell you, it's a big job.
No, I get that. Yeah. By the way, Michelle's just saying, so are all cancers for the most part caused by trauma? I mean, you've answered that, but do you want to?
Yeah, I'm saying that all diseases, including cancers, are caused by trauma. But most of the diseases, or a high proportion of diseases, only become symptomatic when the trauma or the conflict which has been started within the trauma, when that conflict goes into resolution. And then you get the toothache, and then you get the intraductal breast cancer, okay, and then you get the COVID, right, or then you get sore throat, okay, or then you get fungal infections when the conflict has become resolved. So is he saying that all cancers, for the most part, are caused by trauma? I'm saying that either the trauma caused the adeno or adenoid cancers, or the resolution of that trauma caused the things like bone cancer or lymph cancer or skin cancer.
But you said some cancers, once the cancer's sort of appearing, you would say that's actually the body going into healing, and you should just leave it
That's
alone.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
but then
right.
you said
That's your lymph cancer.
there's another load of cancers that you actually do have to go into the actual event that caused the trauma, and then you have to resolve that. Yeah. So you have to go through, like, you would actually have to go through the German New Medicine like dictionary and find like the actual. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. There's so much. This is like, we're only scratching the surface here. This is there's so much to go into with this stuff.
Yeah, it is. But do you know what? The best way to learn is don't start with detail, right? Start big with the big picture.
Yeah.
Right. And when you see the bigger picture, okay, so you get this, there's only 5 laws to remember. The first law is it will have started with a shock at some time. The next law is that if the shock started something, that it starts a process. There's 2 halves to it. There's the first half and the second half, provided you resolve the conflict to get into the second half. So that it's a 2-phase process.
I mean, how would you resolve the conflict though? Let's say you had that separation conflict, or you actually did lose someone, they died, let's say, right? So you had that separation trauma. How and you got a cancer from that. Like, how do you resolve that if they're dead?
Well, those cancers almost always only get detected in the resolution once they have resolved. Your breast cancer, for example, your intraductal breast cancer, only swells up when the conflict is resolved and the body's trying to rebuild the lumen of all the ducts,
Okay,
the
so that's
ductal
yeah,
viscous.
right. Okay, so give me
And
a conflict though. All right, so give me a cancer that's created, and when it shows itself, it's not going into healing. It's one of those ones where you actually have to resolve the conflict. And then give me
okay,
one of those conflict examples, and I'll just pick the bones out of it.
parenchymal parenchymal pancreatic cancer.
Okay, so what's the conflict for that one?
Anger in the territory.
Okay,
Specifically for that
yeah.
one, it usually is, it's got something. For example, unable to settle your will. That's a type of condition which causes
Mm,
parenchymal pancreatic cancer. That would be the first place, as if you had that cancer. Oh, I've got parenchymal. It's something like that. Unable to divide your assets is another way to do it. But
right.
okay, and
Okay,
that's
so
not in healing.
mm,
So you asked me for something that's not in healing. So that's
yeah,
what.
yeah. So then they would have to then what would they have to do in their external world to then heal
Write the
that?
will. Write the will.
Write the will. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Settle the will. Sign
Mm,
it. Look at it, and that night you'll go into healing. According to well, that's according to the way the biology works, right?
mm,
Again, I'm being careful with my liberties and freedoms here. I mean, I have the right to tell what I believe is the truth and
mm.
my opinion, which is what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of quoting the German new medicine literature there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you if you get your will
Mm,
settled, but it could be a fight over the splitting of the divorce case as well. It's something
mm,
where the it's something. It's like anger. There's anger involved with it, and you have to split things, because let's face it, what does the pancreas do? Do you know what the pancreas does?
uh, I'm gonna make it. No, if I said what it did, I'll probably get it wrong and look an idiot. So
Okay, what the
you well,
pancreas does is it secretes enzymes
bile enzymes. Yeah.
which
Okay.
which split
Mm,
food.
mm, yeah. Oh right. Okay. Yeah.
It splits food into
Mm, mm,
components where so that you can digest it. It splits the morsel. It splits the morsel so you can digest it. But because we have this psychological mind that's
mm,
advanced with all of these rules and regulations we have to live within, which are not natural in the least, the psyche can easily be triggered by trying to split the estate of the person, which is
mm,
exactly what happened to my dad.
mm,
That is exactly why I know so much about it. I mean, I knew a lot about it before him, but after he wasn't able to establish his will and they buried him, right? I started to study it a lot more
mm,
seriously. Okay, and that was back in
mm.
2013, I think it was. Yeah.
That's funny though, isn't it? That it's so closely linked metaphorically to the physical event in terms of there like a splitting refers to a splitting. It's like fractal.
Yep.
It's corresponding in such a perfect
It's made
way.
by association.
Yeah,
It's
but
made
that's
by
incredible.
association. It is. It is. It's incredible and it's logical. It's
Mm,
logical, yeah.
yeah.
When you understand the perspectives involved, when you understand that your psyche is archaic.
Yeah.
Is it true that all cancers are fed by sugar, and by cutting out all forms of sugar, the cancer can't grow? Um, I do not believe that's true whatsoever.
Have you heard about the did you want to say anything more about that? Sorry, I just cut
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Um, there are types of cancer
Mm,
which, um, you see, as we've said, cancers are caused by emergency situations. They're emergency reactions that the body makes biologically.
mm,
Emergency, right? And the cells that sprout up in response to this emergency they're like temporary cells. You know that they're They're there just to get this issue resolved quickly so that they can get back to normal and get removed by the TB bacteria. Okay. And the type of metabolic processes in these cells, the simplest way to get energy into your body is get sugar in. Sugar just goes pretty much straight into the blood. With only one split, it goes into the blood, right?
Yeah.
Sugar's the quick way to get energy. Glucose even quicker, right? If you take fat and protein, oh my God, your body's got to flip and dissect that a few times and do a bit of chemistry with it before you get energy out of it.
Mm.
Okay, so cancer cells, they like sugar because they're simple, they're temporary, permanent cells. Okay, so if you cut out sugar, you could impede the development of them somewhat, yeah, or the function of them somewhat, but you will do nothing to resolve a conflict in the psyche and the
Yeah.
brain.
But is it not to do with like the difference between like sugar, like fructose versus refined
No,
sugar? I think that
no.
you think
It's,
this
it's
it
got
doesn't matter.
it's missing the point. It's a great idea. It doesn't do any good because what causes cancer is
Mm.
the psyche tracking a conflict in life which started with a shock, and your psyche
Yeah.
follows it. We were talking about pancreatic parenchymal cancer. If you can't get your will, your psyche is tracking that event. Track, doesn't know what
Yeah.
to do. Boom, boom, boom. Waking you up at 3 o'clock in the morning every night. Boom, boom, boom. Thinking about this will. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right? That's what's driving it. Now, if you didn't take any sugar, if you removed all sugar, you went the complete Atkins diet, maybe you could slow its development down slightly, but it wouldn't really, in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't be curing that cancer at all, right?
Mm.
It's to cure that, the cancer. You basically just be starving the development of it,
Right.
which isn't curing it.
So you would actually say it doesn't matter. Go and smoke 100 cigarettes a day, drink Coca-Cola, have ice cream, have all this crap food. It doesn't matter. Is that kind of your take?
I would say, look, do you know what I'd say, don't worry about it.
Mm.
Don't worry about the food. Don't add that to another level of toxic worry in your life.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes, if you eat well in moderation, like if you don't worry about your food, try and choose wise choices. Because it's fueling your body with better stuff. So it's doing your body a favor. It's like they say one of those powerful emotions is have gratitude for everything in life. It's
Mm.
uplifting and it's great. Have gratitude for this lovely old laptop I'm speaking to you, and
Mm.
have gratitude for this opportunity to tell my truth to you. Have gratitude for this coffee that's gone cold here and all that stuff, right? It's great. And likewise, have gratitude to your body. Yeah, God, this body's been putting up with me for how many times did I go on the lash? And was I doing this when I was that age? And oh my God, I'm still here. I should be really grateful to my body. And
Mm.
I'll do my body a bit of good. I'll try and feed it what I think's good. And that's a good vibe to live in. That's what I'd say, right?
Yeah.
But don't sort of go around thinking, oh my God, how many omega 3s and omega 6s am I eating? And oh my God, has that got
Mm.
this fructose in it? Or has that got aspartame in it?
Oh
Is
yeah,
this
it's just
got
more. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just
More.
goes, it starts to create a fear in you, which
Yeah.
you're living under, which then makes the psyche a bit more trigger happy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just did a show on vitamins, and I had like a debate between these two guys, and one guy was saying, in the environment that we're currently living in, where we're not getting enough nutrients, you need to supplement with vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. And the other guy
Yeah,
was basically saying that what we think of as vitamin deficiency is actually just a toxicity buildup in the body.
yeah,
And these vitamins aren't actually doing anything. It's just like meds. It's like a kind of a trickery,
yeah.
But you go one step further and you say it doesn't matter if you take the vitamins or not. It's the mind. It's the psyche that is the.
I'm not saying that. It's been totally proven. Out of 50,000 cases, and each of those cases probably had about half a dozen symptoms involved with it. So out of, let's just be realistic, say 200,000 separate case symptoms, you're able with 100.00% accuracy and repeatability. You're able to see it in the brain as the psyche, as the brain modulates or controls, orchestrates that biology. It doesn't have anything to do with whether it's real vitamin C. I mean, yeah, if you don't have any vitamin C, you perhaps can get scurvy, right? But that's a starvation. That's a different thing. Just like if you don't get oxygen, you're going to starve of oxygen pretty quick, right? Or that's different. But within the realms of this conversation, we all understand we're talking about diseases, right? Okay, that are caused, they develop within the body for some reason, and your diet is unlikely. I mean, yeah. For example, I'll give you poisoning. Definitely. Let's say thalidomide. Thalidomide was a drug that was given to some women at one point in time, right? Because it apparently helped morning. I think it was helped morning sickness. Yeah, and it caused deformities of the children. Now that's not a conflict, right? That was a chemical altering the genetic material as it was developing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that I would call that as that's poisoning. Poisoning's not included in Dr. Hammer's work. Neither is.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at earlier about how do you know that you're not being poisoned?
Well, if you got thalidomide, then yeah, you have been poisoned, right? But you give me another one. If you got
Let me
lung
give you
cancer,
another
you
one then.
haven't been
Maybe in the
poisoned.
chat, maybe in the chat you can think of something, but I don't know, you're breathing in like the aluminium and barium that they're spraying on us.
Okay, you're breathing that in. Not good. Okay, but you've got to tell me what symptom you're worried about. Are you worried about lung cancer, or is it baldness? Has it made me go bald? I don't know. I don't think so. Not if you look at the brain scans. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the symptom of it. All I can say is that there must be certain things which we consider poisonous that might be in our environment.
What's that? Say that again. Sorry, I was reading.
I was just saying I don't know the symptom of it, but there must be poisons in our environment that
there are.
Yeah.
Fluoride.
But how do we know it's how do we know it could just be from the poison of that?
No, there is no symptom there's no symptom expressed by the physical body.
Yeah.
Which is not driven by a brain relay.
Okay.
Unless you're taking cyanide and you killed your stone dead.
Yeah, but let's just say it's not quite. Let's just say thalidomide is a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10, or cyanide's a 10 out of 10, and 9 out of 10 is a thalidomide. There might be an 8 out of 10 poisoning, right? Poisonous substance.
Well, let's just say you take a little bit of cyanide then.
Yeah.
That's just going to make you unwell.
Glyphosates. What about, something like that?
Well, if glyphosates do the same thing as thalidomide did and start messing about with your DNA, then yeah, they're going to cause mutations of the physical form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like we might be unwittingly being poisoned our environment, but because we don't know it,
but hang on, is
that and
hold on, but it's not really a disease, right? It's not really within the framework of what we're discussing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get
within
that.
the framework of what we're discussing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not a factor. It's not a factor worth giving more credence to than it's worth. Right. What causes disease? No matter whatever you want to call it, apart from like thalidomide, well, that's a deformity caused by a chemical which messed about with your DNA somehow. But if you just have a little bit of cyanide, it's just going to make you feel unwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dom's put here like dishwasher salts, washing up liquid, deodorants. I've got a few more here, like soy, EMFs, glyphosates, heavy metals, seed oils, microplastics, blue light, tap water, GMOs, like that. They're all like forms of poison, right?
Yeah, poison, and poison kill us, or it'll kill us a little bit if you only take a little bit of the poison, but it won't cause a disease, right? It won't. I'm trying to. People are trying to find a way of finding some little thing that it doesn't cause. If it's a disease, that the body has created, and I've listed, pretty much everything, right? There's all diseases of the skin. Yeah, if you put something like some toxic acid on your skin, right, it's going to give you a blister and a rash, right? That's got nothing to do with GNM. That's an injury. That's a chemical injury.
Yeah.
So poisoning is a chemical injury. That I should have thought of that earlier. Hey, I've got you now. Poisoning, right, is a chemical injury. That's not included in GNM. Just like chemotherapy is a chemical injury.
Yeah, that's my
right?
point. It's like, how do you know if it's a chemical injury or if it's something that needs to be
Because
resolved?
if they poison you to death, they don't give you a cold sore or lung cancer, right? Or schizophrenia or tinnitus or short-sightedness or bronchial congestion or a cataract.
But it might give you something else, though.
No, it doesn't. Well, yeah, it gives you some poisoning, but none of these poisonings are not disease. They're a different poisoning's not disease.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm talking about what causes disease, not what causes poisoning.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about, let's say, a problem with the body. Let's just put it into that. How do we know that this problem in the body isn't a poison or it's something that's a conflict?
Well, you'd have to be. You can't just say that. You have to be specific. What problem are you talking about? If you're talking about a big scab on your arm that's been caused by acid, I'm talking about that's not a biological conflict. That is an injury, a chemical injury. But don't just say it. You have to be precise because
Here's one.
Okay, have you got one? What's that?
Yeah.
Progressive poisoning. All right. So Alzheimer's disease is caused by a separation conflict. And it's mediated through the neocortex of primarily the sensory and the post-sensory lobes of the brain. Okay, that causes the forgetfulness. That's why it happens. Most the people that suffer this conflict are most likely to be older, and they've lost someone that they care for. And so the short-term memory loss is mediated through the sensory cortex, where short-term memory is processed, and if the separation conflict can be resolved practically, the disease is halted and can recover to some degree.
Okay.
So it's not caused by poisoning.
I thought that might have been a poisoning from aluminium or something.
No, I know we were told to think that. We were told lots of stuff, but that's not what the actual objective research involving the brain scans and everything shows us. Not at all. And I used to believe that. Trust me, I got rid of all my pans that was aluminium. But I don't now. I've got a few aluminiums. I don't care. I don't care about it now.
Right.
Because I know what causes it. And personally, I've seen that in action. I've seen that, and I've seen how quickly it can progress. Yeah. So that's Alzheimer's. What's the next one?
Yeah. Well, this is Michelle's saying what you're saying there. Yeah.
It's a disease caused by a separation. And do you know why? Right. Listen. Let me just put some biological logic to dementia. Right. Short-term memory loss. Because there's a little bit more which I need to do a bit of swatting up to speak truthfully about the confusion side of it, right? But the memory loss side of it, which is what we assume, like we say Alzheimer's, he's forgetting what he said 2 minutes later, okay? Like he's forgetting what he said 2 minutes later, like, okay? Okay, that was a joke, okay? Yeah, so look, Alzheimer's, right? Let's say a sheep has a lamb, and she cares for that lamb, and she nuzzles that lamb, and that lamb's sucking off the sheep all the time. The mother is, and let's say back in the day before there was fences and there was wolves and stuff about, right? That sheep was in genuine danger, especially with a lamb to look after, and it was caring for this lamb all the time, right? Now, if that sheep lost the lamb, let's say the lamb wandered off, and let's say it was lost for say 3 days. and then the lamb comes back to the mum will not recognize that lamb. She will have forgotten the motherly bond to that lamb. The reason being, because nature takes no prisoners, right? It's right, listen, that lamb's gone, right? You need to stay with the herd, because if you're just constantly wandering about this dangerous environment looking for this lost lamb, you're not eating and you're not following your herd, right? You're going to be in danger. Or likewise, the wolf pack, which would have been the danger for that sheep, right? So a wolf pack, if a she wolf loses a cub, she will only look for that cub for a few hours, because the pack probably will have moved about 10 miles by then, and she will then just take off after the pack, because she has to forget that lost cub to stay with the pack, to keep the integrity of the pack so that it can function. So that's the reason. That's what happens. That's the biological adaptive process the body's trying to do. If you lose somebody who, and that loss is painful to you emotionally, so it's a pain to you emotionally, your psyche will try and help you forget that loss, to get rid of the pain so that you can carry on with the pack, which would have been hunting and gathering and moving from place to place.
Yeah.
Okay. But what happens is we don't. And people come around and talk about you and hold your hand and say, oh, well, she was a lovely woman, and oh, da-di-da. And you've got a picture on the mantelpiece of your lost wife, and you celebrate her birthday every time it comes round and all this. And it just keeps on giving the psyche more and more things to disconnect in the neocortex of the I'm getting tired now. In the neocortex of the sensory, and I think the post-sensory, and possibly the prefrontal lobes.
Yeah.
Although I think they're less so. I think more it's the sensory and the post-sensory cortex that are involved with Alzheimer's. Okay.
Okay. Because it's funny that you.
So there you go. There's 100% answer. That tells you exactly what causes dementia, or forget the short-term memory deficit in people. It's a loss of contact, and that loss has caused pain. And the psyche is trying to help that individual cope with the pain by making them forget it.
So what should they do then if they do have Alzheimer's and they've lost their memory?
Well, what you can do to slow it down is you can remove everything that reminds your psyche of the loss, and you can fill that loss with a replacement. You get rid of the loss. Okay? You get rid of the pain. And you get rid of everything that reminds you of that pain, and you try to fill the place of the pain.
With what?
With another wife.
All right. So,
or another dog, or another husband, or another best friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a brutal world out there. It's brutal, and your psyche is what it is. But if you want to play its game, you've got to play its game, because it's playing your game. It's playing its game. It's causing the short-term memory loss. It's doing it to help you. So okay, that's a given. So all you can do.
What's the cure for cramp in the foot?
Yeah, I don't know.
I've got pins and needles in my foot.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's good though. That's good.
Nice one.
Yeah. All right. We'll kind of wrap it up because we've been going on quite a while. Really appreciate it, Robert. Always good to have you on, mate. Yeah.
I'm just saying it as it is, and probably lots of people are just gonna not like it, but it's the way it is. And the more, I got introduced to Dr. Hammer's work in 2006, and it took me a long time to really adjust my mind right into it. I mean, I don't expect people to just listen to this and say, oh, right, I got it. It literally took me quite a time, and I was a therapist. And then after my dad was, is no longer living, that was back in 2013. I decided to spend the next 2-3 years I made it my hobby. I just really got
Mhm.
into it, and it. I did a lot of study. I mean, I basically, if degrees were given out, I'd probably have a good degree in it. But you don't get any qualifications in it. But
Uh, yeah.
I wanted to know because I wanted the answers. And the more I found, the more I looked into it. It's like you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm,
You should be looking into it. You shouldn't be asking me these
mm,
questions. I shouldn't be having to explain it to you.
mm.
You should be saying, "Well, I'm getting on that website and I'm going to look at this. I'm going to read
What is
this
the
a few
website?
times."
What is it? I'll put it
Learn,
down for everyone.
yeah,
Yeah,
learninggnm.com.
yeah. A few people have asked that, and I haven't stuck that in. Hang on, let me just stick that in.
Yeah,
Uh, that's right, isn't it?
learninggnm.com.
Yeah.
And listen, I've got a Facebook. It's
Go on.
God, what is it? Health at Highland Alchemy is my Facebook group. That's
Health
Health
at
Highland Alchemy.
Highland Alchemy. I'm going to put that in.
Yeah.
You tell me if I've spelt that right.
I'm dyslexic, mate, so I probably would be struggling with that as well. But don't matter. People will get it. Health at Highland Alchemy. Oh, you've gone. I've lost you. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah,
Oh my God.
it's all right. I'm
Zoom.
hello. I'm still here.
Aye. What are we on? How am I seeing you? How are you seeing me? Hang on. I've opened Zoom here.
um,
Oh yeah, I've got you. It's a duck thing. Here we go. I've got you. I'm back. Right, I've got you. Yeah, Health at Highland Alchemy on
yeah.
Facebook, and I've got
Okay.
loads of little videos. And sometimes I feel motivated. I put another video up, and
Yeah. All right. I've got a final question for you, Rob.
okay.
If you got dyslexia, why can't you just resolve the conflict for that?
Um, because dyslexia. A major part of dyslexia,
Mm,
the big part of dyslexia is caused by a separation conflict, right? So
yeah.
you can stop it. You can stop it getting worse.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's hard. It's not easy to resolve it. Okay, to fix it.
Mm, mhm.
Now, my dyslexia, if anyone's interested, when I was at an early age, I was good for my age. I was very good with letters and words, and I was picking it up really quick. And my family was, well, especially my dad, was extremely proud of my abilities with words and numbers at that early age of my. And
Mm,
me and my dad were just like two peas in a pod, right? I was on his shoulders all the time because we had a little hill farm, a sheep farm in the Highlands, okay?
mm,
Or he had the farm, and I was his, 2, 3 year old son, right? And I would go with him every day, all day, round this farm. And he then had to go to work in Swansea, and we were living up in Sutherland in the north of Scotland. Okay, so Swansea back in the 1960s was a long way, right? When
mm,
we didn't have a phone or anything like that, right?
mm.
And he just disappeared, and I was bereft. I was absolutely distraught at the loss of my dad, and from that time on, I've not. My affinity to words and reading and
Mm.
recognizing words and stuff just totally went, and it's been a
Really?
struggle ever since. Yeah, and
There's nothing you can do
that
to
shows you how
resolve that conflict, though.
well it's not so easy to resolve. He's now dead, and
Right.
it's so long ago that your mind just gets settled. It's like when the
Calcified.
Alzheimer's
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
so ingrained, you can't fix it.
Yeah.
You're best getting it right away.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
All right. I get that. Yes. It's just been a long time, and it's sort of calcified, and it's difficult to go back into it and change it. Because I was also
completely
thinking,
so.
this is a silly question, right? But if when we die of something, right?
Yeah,
Everyone will die of some kind of disease or something, right? Unless you get hit
yeah,
by a car, whatever. Like,
mm,
let's just take out all the accidents and falling off a building or something like that. Let's just say
yeah,
it's a disease.
yeah.
Surely, if you mastered Dr. Hammer's work, you could never die.
Oh
No?
no, that's no, 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 no. You might know that Doctor
Do you know what I'm
Hammer's work
getting
is
at though? Because it's always one
it's
disease that you die of, but if you resolve the conflict for that, then you wouldn't die of that. You'd
no, no,
die of a
no,
different
no,
disease,
no,
and then you'd
no,
work
no,
out the
no.
conflict for that, and then
You can learn G&M till you're blue in the face, right?
yeah.
But learning it's all retrospective. You're always looking back. You're always looking at the symptom. Okay, you've got thrush. okay, that's what's
Mm.
caused it, or you've got tinnitus, that's what's caused it, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop you catching the tinnitus, because the traumas are unexpected, deeply
Yeah.
felt, and isolative. That's the three factors which make the trauma biological. And if it's unexpected, it's unexpected. Do you
Yeah,
know
but
what
you
I
can
mean?
then resolve it though. You still got the opportunity to retrospectively resolve that conflict.
Mm, if it's some things you do, right? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, you do. But
Mm.
I'll let you know, right? It's usually the resolution of conflicts which kills you.
Oh God, yeah, we talked about that on the first episode we did.
I'm going to tell you something else that you don't know. All heart attacks are caused by the resolution of a conflict. All of them, right? All of them. It's got nothing to do with eating fish and chips and McDonald's. It's got nothing to do with that whatsoever. And you can, or how much cyanide they're spraying on us with them chemtrails.
What about the you know what's
Mm.
that
Well, that's causing inflammatory. Those proteins, whatever they put in them, causes
yeah,
inflammatory.
yeah,
That's poisoning. Okay, so that's
yeah,
out
okay.
with the remit of
Yeah.
natural disease. Okay, natural disease, right? So there you go.
Mm.
Hammer himself died before his biological end date, sell by date, because
Yeah.
of the trauma, the immense, relentless abuse and
Mm.
torture that man was put through, because he's given mankind the most important information that any scientist has ever done. Any scientist at any time, his work is 100 miles more important than anything else.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. We did 2 hours there, Robert. Thank you. Yeah, that was a
Wow.
good session. That was a good session, yeah. And just
Get
for
right
everyone
into
again,
them.
learning June so you've got there learninggnm.com and also Health at Highland Alchemy on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
If you
me.
want to connect.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm there. I do my videos and I help people over Skype or Zoom or whatever there's needed. I can
Yeah.
help you at distance, or you can come and see me, which is much better, to be honest.
Mm.
It's leads to quicker resolution usually.
Come up to the Highlands, yeah?
Aye, why not? It's great up here. Midgie,
I'd quite
so
like might come and visit you, mate. I could do with a
aye,
yeah, might do that, yeah. We could
yeah,
shoot
do that.
something live if you want. We could shoot like a in the Highlands. That might be cool.
That would be very cool. Yeah, I'm totally up for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, brilliant, nice. All right, so we'll say goodbye to everyone here. Some thank you, people saying thanks for you. Thanks for the website. Cheers, John and Robert. Highland. Oh no, we've already said that already. Yeah, thanks for your wisdom, Robert.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone's loving it. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, this is great stuff, man. Like, it's really paradigm shifting stuff, and people need to know more
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Well, but
So
you get off your lazy ass and get onto that website and learn it, right?
yeah. No, I will do. I will do. I've got so much. All my guests want me to do different things. Like one guy's like helping me build a republic where it's like we're building our own country within a country, and
Yeah. Oh,
like
I'm
all this
totally
sort of
into
stuff.
that.
Oh, you
In
can be
fact,
one of the
it's
assembly members. I'm actually
it's
starting my
already on
own
the go.
republic.
Yeah, I am. If I would live there, I would. And actually, I
Okay,
almost
so you can
volunteered.
still get involved, I think, but the idea is we're going to start our own republic and give it our own flag, our own jurisdiction. We can even
That's right.
deputize police, and we'll carry our own citizen card.
That's
Basically,
right.
we can come up with our own bylaws, and then we're exempt from this kind of country. If you know
Well,
what I
I
mean,
can
but we can
tell
still
you,
play that game as well. But
you can do it quick on that. You can go to Common Law Court, um, Great Britain and International. That's a
mm,
website, Common Law Court, Great Britain and International. And there's a guy,
yeah,
John Smith, who's setting that up. And that is a very fast track way of doing it. Some people
mm,
say it's not robust enough. I think it is.
mm,
And that way you can get yourself back in control of your birth certificate. You can
yeah,
become the benefactor or the beneficiary of your
yeah,
trust, and you can manage your trust, which is Mr. Robert Allen
yeah,
Jardine,
Mr.
who's the
and
trust.
Master.
You can manage it,
Mm.
and which is exactly what I'm looking into right now, because I'm
What's it
getting
called?
sick of it
Common
all.
law what? Common law court.
The CLC, Common Law Court,
Oh yeah, I think I.
Great Britain and International. Super easy, super cheap. The guy is such a gem. He's not trying to make money out of anyone. He's trying to just keep it going. and he is really taking the system on. He's grabbed them by the scruff of the neck and he's wrestling with them.
What's his name?
He's going to the high courts and everything. He's doing good work.
What's his name?
John Smith from
John Smith.
Dundee.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I want to like connect all these people together, and I want to try and create more of a group of people where we can do this together under one umbrella, kind of thing.
And the English Counties Assemblies is the other one, and that's coming through from a lady, Anna von Ritz, who's American in Alaska. She's Alaskan, and she set this up where you're setting these assemblies, county assemblies up. And such,
exactly. And that's all you need to start your own republic, basically, and be exempt from the Crown's land, you know, the Crown's rules, Crown's laws, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff, Robert. We'll be in touch.
Nice
one. And see everyone soon. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Okay. See you. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.